There. Yeah. That should work, but I do need to pop out the chat still.
Oh, yeah, we're live, huh?
Oh yeah. Very, very live. Very live. You're running late.
Hello to all who are here. Happy Thursday.
Yeah, we've actually been here a bit. It was just, we had a little error when we hit the start stream button. It said some sort of previous transition or whatever wasn't accomplished. But
in other words, I guess last week's stream never ended. I don't know.
Yeah. Move those, and that should be. Well, it's close enough, but I guess it's too much. Sorry.
What are we? Close enouging?
Just yeah. That's good. All right. Okay, so, we are here to welcome you. What are we doing? Right. Okay, so yeah, obviously we're continuing with our Fox language today, and we have a poll, and we're going to look at that. But I wanted to share something with you first, especially for folks that were here for season 4. We recently, or today we released the, our little Sarkaj intro, because we've been doing language intros each week. This week is Sarkaj, and we did some things to the orthography. Not like big things, but we did some things.
What are you looking at?
Did you just make a note about something I said?
I just made a note that I remembered I did exactly what I said would happen. I 100% forgot about the LangTime chat files because it was done early.
Oh, right.
And now we are in a position of LangTime chat dropping in
that reminds
36
me.
hours, and I have done nothing to make that happen.
Anyway,
that's what my note was, and then I'm also going into Instagram and accepting David's invitations to collaborate because I didn't know that they were already up.
That reminds me, I need to do some serious LangTime work over the weekend, because as a reminder, this Sunday, CBS Sunday morning, where Jesse and I are going to be interviewed on CBS, one of the major broadcasters here in the United States. And there's going to be, well, we don't know how exactly or what, but there's going to be some mention of the stream. They videotaped us streaming. And so people are going to end up coming to us. I need to do some things. In fact...
like get LangTime stuff ready to be viewed?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Need to get LangTime Chat, the actual podcast, need to get that moved over because I haven't done it yet. I want to update the, not just the CopyCon website, but I also want to do the thing that I've been meaning to do for more than a year now, which is chunk the major CopyCon live stream video into actual talks.
Right.
Because I think all we need to do, I don't think that we actually have to pull it down. I think we can duplicate the video on YouTube.
And then just trim?
Yeah. However, I don't know how long it's going to take to duplicate an 8.5-hour video. So I should have started this well in advance, because it's going to need to be duplicated for as many times as there were speakers.
I mean, at some point it may actually be easier to download it and upload chunks.
Yeah.
And you're right, Jake, you won't be waiting for the LangTime chat. So that gives me all the way through midnight my time on Saturday before it's technically late. So
and no, it won't
okay.
be. It won't be overlapping, because this is CBS Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be done by the time
you're awake.
Yeah, well,
We should set a recording.
yeah.
We'll make a note of that because we probably won't be awake.
Yeah. And then you know what? I have to have a corollary to this CopyCon website. But
So many little things
yeah.
to remember and some really big things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, but the thing that I wanted to go over in particular is there were a number of things that we were always not very happy with when it came to the CopyCon. I'm sorry, with the Sarkisha orthography, and when I say we, I mean me. And we fixed them. So I wanted to go over what we fixed. So a couple of things. There were some really goofy looking characters that needed to be destroyed. I tried my hardest, and there's like hours of footage of this on the stream, of getting like this N kind of diacritic put onto the end of nasalized vowels, and it just wasn't working. We also had in my opinion, a really bad character for this one. We ideated a bit and came up with something new. So this is our new Ash character. I think it looks great, and also it behaves when doubled like some of the other long vowels, where you only double part of it.
One quick thing, David.
Yeah.
Bib is saying editing videos already uploaded is a thing, and Jake had said I don't recommend the YouTube editor, and so
But
just FYI, like that's.
So
I just wanted to let you know that that's going on in chat, and then we
first, I
can focus on
know
orthography.
about that, but like all we have to do is trim on either end, and I figured that would be easy. You know, we're not going to go and do extra stuff like cut stuff out of the middle. We're not doing that much work. So Jonathan's saying it's not that much of a hassle to download the video, right? But Jonathan, it's like 9 hours long. Like, that's a big file. So it'd be ideal if we didn't have to do that. Anyway.
Sorry, going back.
Yep.
Ash. The ash looks much better.
Yeah, we also had a ligature for double R, so this is single R, and like putting two next to each other was ridiculous because it would look like that. And so we came up with this ligature for double R, and we realized that that could apply in a couple of other places. One of which was with B, right here, because it looks similar, because this little character was supposed to be a shortened version, kind of like the tilde, a smaller version of the character above it. And that's basically the same thing. And we did it for M, too. So, so that, I don't know when we'll have a double B, but we could, theoretically. We do have double M a lot. Nothing for MR or RM sequences. Those are going to be long, but, you know, same with MB, RB, and so on. Then we decided to venture out and explore more diacritics that were essentially, it's like, well, if you're doing a small version of the character above it or below it, why not do it for more? So we did it for L, and it's got this little cat face below it. That's essentially kind of like the end of the L glyph that now appears below. Same thing for N. N isn't too long, but I was like, well, if we're doing it for M, might as well. And we just use that flipped over. And then also for D. Kind of so several different diacritics for these geminates. Anything that doesn't have that, you just double the character. Here's that changed nasalized E. Looks a lot better. And we have a changed nasalized O, which you're going to note looks very similar to N, but Jesse liked this, and I was on board with it as well. I was like, you know what? I like that. And you'll see that it duplicates with the original version of the vowel. We also changed engma, which is another one of those that had the weird thing on the end. This went through so many iterations. I'm grateful to Jessie for her patience. I think this one looks very good. We also replaced all of the sharp unders with a dot below. We'd already used the dot on H, and so we figured we could get some more utility out of that. And so that applies for angma. It also applies for G, that angma is derived from, and also for T. And yeah, so that's it. So now I think things look a lot better. I'm much happier with them. You can see them better on Instagram, Tumblr, or Blue Sky, where I did images. So anyway, just wanted folks to have an update on that. And that'll do it for Sarkishe for the day.
And speaking of cats, let's talk about foxes.
Artifaxian, that's a good point. Says that we
Artifaxian?
Artifaxian, oh, I like that. He says we will lose quality by downloading and then re-uploading, which is not ideal. Anyway, I figured that what I'm going to realize is that even duplicating this 9-hour video is going to take something like 48 hours. And so it's not going to be close to being done by Sunday, and I started too late. I honestly, I could probably start it right now just to see what it's like.
I would advise waiting till the stream is over.
Why? What else are we doing?
Your computer has a habit of losing battery during streaming.
Oh, right.
That's the only reason not to try to duplicate a 9-hour video during a stream.
Good point. I mean, it happened in the background, but good point. All right, so next, let's talk about the poll. So I think I need to move this over temporarily. And then I need to hide page of... Perfect. Yeah.
Oh, I'm waiting for it to update to see what...
Oh, no, it looks great.
Okay.
All right. It took a lot of effort to get this poll up. And I hope that we got it right. We'll find out during the course of this stream if we did, in fact, get it right or not. But we came up with 3 potential sound changes to address the problem that we were having with ordering and things like that. I also want to bring attention to this word grufflepoggle that I invented. Because, yeah, the end of last week's stream was something. But we think that we have a way out of it. We came up with 3 possibilities, and these are they. So, one way out of it was to say that basically labialized velars delabialize. Everything else is the same. So this gets us K, but it doesn't get it for us word initially. And so you can see a lot of places where we previously had a qua, there's just a ka now. So like, you know, kekwa becomes hekwa or heka. You just lose it. And the only place you retain the qua is older sequences of Q, labialized Q, because if only the velars delabialize, then the uvulars don't. It is a little odd, but you know, we've done some odd things this language so far. Also the R sequences, because essentially the R becomes a wa, and so it doesn't matter what happens to the qua beforehand. So that was one option. A second option was to get rid of qua sequences. So not the labialized, but the actual full qua sequence. We get rid of that almost everywhere. And this does affect the QW. The only place that we would ever have qua using this sound change is if it happened to be followed by an R. Because the qua is eliminated, and then the rwa essentially turns into a W. Everywhere else, you could see it either becomes a K or it becomes a P or a B or things like that due to the other sound changes. So that was option number 2. Option 3 was much more aggressive, much angrier. In this one,
I feel like you could have just stopped there, period. This one.
yeah, we revisit an older sound change where it was the palatalization sound change. This turned all non-labialized velars into palatals. Or was it just all velars? I think it did turn all velars into... How did the old... Well, we have it written down how the old sound change worked. Anyway, we took all non-labialized velars and palatalized them. Okay, this time we're going to palatalize them only before E. So in other words, we had an across-the-board sound change that changed all g to j everywhere, right? This one we're going to modify it so g only goes to j and k only goes to, j before... Oh, that's wrong, isn't it? That should just be ch, not k, or ch. Or, I don't know. I'm slightly confused. But whatever, the point is it's only going to happen before E, proto-E. Mm-hmm. Everywhere else, it just stays the same. And then we're going to delabialize velars after that, but only before E. And that'll give us K at the beginning of a word. So kekwa becomes chekwa instead of kekwa. I don't know about that, actually. I trust Lexergy, but I don't understand why it's palatalizing and spirantizing, but G is not.
Because that was a voiceless K with a H, and later they turned into fricatives.
It was it was aspirated, right? Okay.
See, I know these sound changes better this season than I have known in past seasons because I'm doing the Lexergy stuff.
Right.
And so that's very exciting.
Okay. And then what happens is, right, the old labialized ones, so quequa, right? They become our new Ks. All right? So we have K at the beginning of the word. I guess we don't have K at the end of a word, but that's okay. I think we wanted it more at the beginning of a word. We have our palatals, and we also have regular velars, kind of. Anyway, we get it all, and we get some qua and gua. They're still in there. So that was the poll. Now, as for how people voted.
Folded? I like that.
Boy. The first option, Way the First, The Path of Loss, nobody voted for that.
Nobody. You had people in chat being like, well, that was my favorite. Or
No.
Patrick even said, I voted for it because of its name. Didn't you say that, Patrick?
Sorry, just kidding. When I say nobody voted for it, I mean it came in third. Lots of people voted for it.
Well, David. I was like, wait.
People voted for it. It wasn't close. It came down to these last two, Way the Second, The Path of the Voiceless Velar, and Way the Third, The Path of Space-Time Continuum Disruption. And this was another one where our superdelegates swayed the vote. Mm-hmm. So if you've only seen the first poll, you might think that this one won, but it did not. It is The Path of Space-Time Continuum Disruption that was the clear winner. They both got a lot of votes. So that is what we are going to do. Bing.
Okay. So, David,
Mm-hmm.
while we were working, I remember I had put in a rule that we were testing, and I put it into the Lexergy thing, and I think I need to take it out.
Mm-hmm. I
But
cannot help you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be looking through to make sure I didn't mess up anything there. The opening changes will be the same. But yeah, I'll wait for you to write the rule in the document, and then I'm going to figure out what needs to be undone.
Okay, so first, let's go to palatalization, because this is the easiest. All right, velar consonants ka, ga, and la, not the labialized ones. So, should probably put that. Shift to kya, ya, and lia, respectively, in front of the vowel E. This is before or after. Yeah. This includes vowel sequences that begin with E. All right.
It was the labelization.
Mm-hmm.
Labialization deletion.
And you think that's a new rule, or?
Well, it sure is not written as an official rule. We have it listed between 15 and 16 as a note, but not as a numbered rule.
We have no, Rule 16 is delabialization.
Right, but look above that.
Yeah,
Velar delabialization, which means like all velars go minus labial. Is that meant to be done separately so that way something else happens?
Hold on a sec. And then delabialize velars after that only before E. I think that's a second sound change. And so this is going to end up being delabialization 2, I think.
Okay.
And then I think this goes right after. So we have palatalization literally, and then delabialization 1 is going to be plus velar. Velar labialized stops. Is this what happens? I think they just it doesn't become a W. It's just they just go. Velar labialized stops. Delabialize in. Yeah, delabialize. Oh dear. Entirely in front of the vowel E.
So only in front of the vowel E.
Yes. And that's why we still need delabialization 2, which is generic. But once you have that written, kind of run it a few times and make sure it works the way that we want it to.
Right, and then the palatalization has shifted.
Mm-hmm. It now has an environment.
Only in front of E.
Mm-hmm. That should be the only change.
Okay, first thing first, none of our forms came back with errors. Yay! Alright, is there a particular set of forms we should be looking at to make sure I've done this correctly for the intention? Including like, what were the forms that you had in the, actually I think they may already be somewhat here in the Patreon post. I know Kek and Quek So those come out as Shekwa and Pekwa,
And is
with a schwa at the end for now, because we
Yeah.
haven't done anything to that.
and is that what we intended? So it's like Lexergy in the post match.
Well, I was asking you because I have Lexergy open in a different thing than where Patreon was. I thought you still had Patreon open. on
Sorry,
yours.
yeah. Okay, I'm looking at it. Okay, so Kekwa comes out as Shekwa, and
Shit with a like an a,
Sh-
not
yeah,
a.
Shekwa.
Okay.
Okay, and Kwekwa comes out as Kekwa.
I have it as Pekwa. Because the quas should have gone to a P before then, because the Q to P Celtic style is before these changes occur.
That is a problem. That is a problem. Because we want Kwe to come out as K and Kwa to come out as Pa. So we have a rule ordering problem.
We can move rules 10 and 11 before rule 8 and see what happens. And by see what happens, I mean do it here. I'll do it on Lexergy and see if anything breaks.
Yeah, I see 8 and 9 as they're written in English. They don't matter. Wait,
They have to go together.
they have to go together.
Because otherwise
Otherwise-
it creates another environment by which we get too many.
Yeah.
So like,
So 9 has to follow 8.
yeah.
9 has to follow 8.
So like 8 can't be popped down below 11 is what I'm saying.
Okay. But 10 doesn't matter, right? 10 just has to go before 11.
Right, so 8 and 9 stay together, 10 and 11 stay together. I think if I take 10 and 11 and pop them before 8, we may be okay. But I can also, you know what else I can do? We can open Lexergy in the non-back end where I am. And change it in there so it doesn't affect the actual thing and see if we
Yeah.
end up with the same order. So,
I'm going to have these highlighted and ready to cut in case this works.
alright, so this was, so I'm going to do this here. And then I can also compare the lists because I'm doing it in 2 different Lexergy things. Okay, so now by switching the order of those rules, I still don't get any errors in any of the forms we currently have loaded. And I get Shekwa and Kekwa. Later I get Kwekwa from the QW.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
there.
Uh-huh.
I don't think we had any forms that would have been a P to be able to test if any P's are now showing up. I don't see any.
Put Kwa and Guo.
Oh, I see a Kwa. Kwa comes out as Pa,
Uh-huh.
and Guo comes out as Bo.
Okay, that's good. I think that gets us what we need, but I do want to highlight Jake's comment just to mention it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Jake came up with another fix that might work. And I want to mention it for other conlingers in case, because this is always something you can think of. Jake says, what if your Q to P sound change had a stage where they were labial velars and thus stronger, and then reduced later? In other words, Jake is suggesting introducing a variable where it's like this, instead of A going to B, A goes to X,
Mm-hmm.
and X goes to B later.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not a bad idea. So rather than Kwa going to Pa directly, Kwa goes to Pa, and then Pa goes to Pa.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that we need to do it for this, and so I don't think that we should introduce that complexity at this stage. However, it's a brilliant solution, and things like that are what you can consider if you see yourself painted into a corner when you're doing sound changes like this. Okay, So then for the moment, cutting that, putting it after voicing assimilation.
And then I'm doing it in the real thing. Alright, so now it's unaspirating. Oh wait, right, that's not on there. Voicing assimilation. Palatalization goes next then. Alright, so I'm going to change this title of the rule to match what we have here. Delabialization. And I'm calling it the first. I have the other one called the second. Alright, so now titles are matching better and got the order in. I will say one tiny change that David and I made as a sort of behind the scenes thing that we don't actually have in the document here written is that after the voicing assimilation, which is rule 7, which is the oldest rule that's coming to us from Helpful, from the development of the dog language rather, we put in a rule whereby any labialized consonant loses its aspiration if it had aspiration.
Yeah.
So the hua with the voiceless hua situation happening loses it. And that was an important step to make it so that as we were delabializing things, we didn't accidentally create everything would end up becoming a voiceless fricative, and that wasn't what we wanted. We wanted that distinction between this was originally an unaspirated stop, no labialization. This was originally, an aspirated stop, no labialization. This one was a labialized stop. We wanted that distinction, so to make it work, we had to unaspirate those labialized stops. And so that is written in as a rule. Like I said, right after voicing assimilation, it's tiny, but it has quite a bit of power given the fact that the next set of rules is all about making some environmental distinction among those sounds. So for anyone who is like wondering why that happened, that's why it's there.
And I did write that into the document, and so I'm highlighting that right now.
Where did you put that in there?
Oh, I put it right before sound change 1.
Oh, David put it in. Gotcha. As a note that's how they pronounced it, and I needed to obviously write it into Lexergy as like a note. Otherwise, it would not super work. But also, hey Kay.
Yeah, that was all. Just wanted to say hi to Kay. We miss you over here, Kay. Not only that, the weather's getting a little warmer, and for some reason that makes me think of you when you visited, and it was nice and warm.
Oh yeah, and it was in March, so that may also be why.
Mm-hmm.
And so.
All right. I'm very happy with this. For the time being, now we just need to address the loose ends. I would like you to throw in a hua and roi in there just to make sure that they get properly rooted out and nothing weird happens to them.
Can you tell me what sound you're making? Is it the uvular?
I have to look to make sure. I believe it's uvular in the proto. Yeah. So uvular,
voiceless,
labialized, voiced and voiceless in the proto stage.
Okay. And I'm going to put it before an E and then before like an A. Yeah. Right? Because it makes a difference, right? Or
I don't know.
Does it not make a difference? It shouldn't.
I don't know.
Let's find out, David.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shoot. How do you do the voiced one? Because that's the upside down R, right?
I would go to the IPA keyboard and do it that way.
Actually, you know what? I have the symbol right here in the list of IPA symbols. Woo! Copy that. Paste it there. Okay. Paste again. Apply. Alright, so we get hui XW epsilon, and then hua for the one, so same. And then we get oi, the voiced we for the e, and then for the
Okay.
But it comes out as the X and the gamma with a W after it.
Because those sounds are not velar
Right.
at this stage of delabialization 1.
Right.
All right. And they won't be. It's thought it might be a way to sneak in further distinctions, but no, let's not do that. Let's be happy with this as it is. This is a very good state for us to then now move on and address the vowels and some other outstanding features, and I think that's going to finish us up for the phonology, which would be great. I might need an early celebration.
What, before I allow that, I need to back up because I think my brain blipped a little bit. What were the defining things that still needed to get done before we call it?
Oh, just some of the leftover vowel situations,
Like the schwa.
and potentially if we want to move from having true palatals to having alveolar palatals.
Okay.
Thank
Now
you.
I'll reward you.
Woohoo.
I just needed to get
Cheers.
Needed to get that verification because I didn't hear it all.
I can't hear you. I'm enjoying a Copico. Oh, they actually officially allowed both types of G for IPAG. That was actually a very old decision that I misinterpreted as a modern decision. So yeah, Tethys, that's no longer the case.
Tethys put a picture of Zorro into the pets channel. And David, you're gonna want to see it. Excellent, excellent cat, Tethys. All right.
Sorry, I'm looking at a cat. Oh my God.
Yeah, David will be gone for a while because the cat really is a great picture.
Oh gosh, that cat looks so happy in a little patch of sun on a chair.
So, yeah, I actually never even knew that there's an IPAG, and so I have never, in any point in my life, changed a G to be an IPAG.
I remember the
And
first.
it wasn't until David when he was like, "You're using the wrong G," and I was like, "I don't know what you're talking about," and I still don't super. And so, I mean, like, I see the difference, but I'm like, it's just so silly. So silly. Like, it's not like the G, it's not like the fancy G meant anything else in IPA. It's not like, well, we use this G to represent that velar stop, but make it fancy and it suddenly represents an implosive or something. It's not like it meant anything. So, to me, I just thought it was the silliest thing, so I just left it.
I don't understand why they call it single story G. I think that makes no sense. Like I just don't think it makes any sense. And
Also,
look
Minnie
who
is
it is.
Woohoo!
Made Jonathan drop potato.
Nice. And if you like the look of it, I say go for it. But that's like, I feel, a personal decision for how much you're willing to work for a specialty. I also think it's super silly, and still think it's super silly, that we have these two identical upside down E's that are different Unicode points.
Yeah.
And IPA uses one of them, and languages like Romanizations use a different one.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have the wrong one coded, and it's just so silly to me, because it's like, it's literally the same shape. Nothing at all looks different. Like, it's just nothing looks different about it. It's just that it points to a different Unicode point.
It's like Cyrillic O and Roman O, both upper and lowercase. Oh, yes, yes, CJ, quite seriously. It led to a lot of problems in our documentation and using things like Lexergy and just searching for things.
And so, for instance, if we were on an IPA keyboard and went to, like, find in a document and entered the schwa, it would say we didn't have any schwas at all in our document when we knew we did.
Yeah,
because it had the upside down E instead of the schwa. So we literally went through and changed our keyboard to the schwa and had to update all of our documents, which I finally had to do schwatis the other day, because I was like, why are no schwas showing up? And it was like, oh yeah.
It's like the computer is like Tommy from Parks and Rec, you know. Yeah, this is Onyx and Midnight, and holds up his red tie. Does this look black to you too?
Yeah, they are identical, CJ, like, literally, and Jonathan is verifying it. Like, it's just so silly. And then it's also, by the way, I saw somebody had commented that we do have the two different styles of
Nice,
A's as different IPA sounds. Thankfully, not many languages use those two for meaningful distinctions. Because in a lot of fonts, if you make the A italic, it switches to the other A, which means you can no longer distinguish between the two.
Mm-hmm.
And that's problematic. But again, not a lot of languages have an distinction for, I think, kind of obvious reasons. Like, it will be there for maybe dialectal variation, or in this environment, you're more likely to get the back one versus this environment, the other one. But, like, rarely are you going to get a language where it's like, if you say ka, that's going to mean something totally different from ka. No, wait, that was a Q. Ka. Like, I'm trying to do it. Ka, ka.
Yeah. There is, oh goodness, I've forgotten what I was going to say. Oh, it was a corker too. Oh, yeah, in the older days, sometimes linguists would actually use regular A and put it in italics when they needed that IPA symbol.
Yeah.
In a paper or something. Okay. So yeah, let's move on to how we now want this language to sound. An easy place to start would be the vowel sequences. So if you could throw some of them into Lexergy, and maybe after a Q and a K, we don't need to worry about the palatalization at this point because we're focusing on the vowels, and the vowels will change in the presence of an emphatic consonant.
All CVV structures, or do you want like CVV, CV? You know, like, does it?
Let's just do CVV right now.
Okay. And after the K and the Q, to see what happens between the two? Is that what we're...
Yeah, because I think this is going to end up producing a much greater variety of vowels than we would like. And so we're going to need to figure out where to make cuts. Oh yeah, Teth has plenty of those.
Okay. Just doing A initial combos first, because we have a lot of combos to work through.
Yes, we do.
And so AA, AE, AO, AU
Mhm.
after, and I just did K. Did you want me to do the labialized?
Yes.
Do both. So K, K labialized, Q, Q labialized.
Oh, I'm sorry. No. Just K and Q.
Okay.
Just K and Q.
So we get, well, I mean, all of the vowel combos that we already had in the document
Yeah.
in that colorful chart above 7.
Okay, so there's
Nothing has changed about those,
all right.
except now the K and the Q are both velar X. So that has changed.
Now the K and the Q are both.
The velar X. Huh. Because they're aspirated stops. Aspirated stops are becoming
Right.
fingers.
Yeah. It's the KW that would become just regular K. Okay.
All right. The next set of combos, same thing. Nothing has changed from the vowel charts, but now the K is a palatal sh, while the Q is a velar ch.
I'm a little surprised by that.
Why? That was the whole thing we just wrote up. Was that?
I think that the A's should be becoming after Q. That's the whole reason I had you put them both.
I think. Let me check this. Okay, that works there. Let me double check this. They were, I just was paying attention to the second half.
Okay, so then there's actually
There is that distinction, yeah.
okay. Do we want to stop at this point or do all of them and then consider them as a whole?
All of them, because then we have the distinction
Okay.
with the O or.
Okay.
Otherwise, everything else is staying the same. K and Q are all the ch now, because it's not after a front vowel. And now checking the U combos. And so now we have a distinction, the U-O distinction. Like Q-U-A is becoming X-O schwa,
Mm-hmm.
whereas K-U-A is X-U schwa.
Okay. Interesting. All right.
So,
So,
we're introducing several new diphthongs.
And just as a reminder, nothing happened for the ones that begin with A, right? They were the same?
The ones that, like, ah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing.
Okay.
Me. Double check. Yeah, it's all the ah, the open A.
Okay, I'm making a little note for myself here.
Oh, Tathis, I've seen those too where Tathis mentioned that, you know, in some typewritten manuscripts, you can tell the author or someone went back in and added manually the hooks for the, like the enye, the engma, the retroflex. So anything that's like in like that needed a hook on it, they went back in and added it by hand. And I've totally seen that. A Magpie points that out too. Writing in diacritics by hand, it's always interesting when you see what are very obviously like pen marks, where like the first time I saw one of those, I thought like something had gotten on the page and I kept trying to like brush it off thinking what's on this page, and then I realized that was just like a poorly made pen mark that was supposed to be a diacritic that they couldn't type. many. Yeah, I had to look that one up too because I actually have an example of tundra nenuts in my textbook, and I totally had to like double check. So I was like, why is there a degree symbol here? And like I had to go in and check and make sure it wasn't like just the person trying to be fancy to say like this is a boundary or like affix versus root or something. Like I had no idea what was happening, and then I looked it up and I was like, oh no, that degree marker is part of something there. Cool.
You say, first you say, oh no, and then you say, oh no.
It's it was that one. Oh yeah, there was like a list of like 5 languages where using examples from them, I just had to keep double checking things because when something doesn't register in your brain as a letter symbol, you sometimes then have to work harder to make sure it made it in the right place and not like accidental placement. That was one, and there were a few others that I'm like, I've never seen this used in a written language. Oh, it was one where I thought it was like something wrong with the page. It was a language that used the colon, but only used the top dot of a colon in some situations. And so there was the single dot colon where it's like, if you imagine a colon and then erase the bottom one, they use that to distinguish from sounds that were marked with a full colon. And so I had to go through and like figure out how to insert that first of all, and second of all to make sure that was actually how it was supposed to be.
And that was a colon, not a half length marker?
I don't remember. I just remember I had to like go find the half marker versus full.
Yeah.
Maybe it was IPA.
Because if it was the triangles for the length marker, there is one for half length.
I get that, but like
Okay.
when you're having to find all those symbols.
Oh yeah, we haven't seen Mateus, have we?
No. But Patrick seemed to think Mateus was not going to be here, so.
Mm.
So I think that was an expectation.
All right.
David's
Some
out of
days,
water.
yeah, some days I don't need water. Today is a day I think I'm going to need water. But I have it written down here. We have something just for us to kind of note. Because of the sound changes as they have emerged, we have every single vowel. So we have every single vowel occurring before schwa.
Mm-hmm.
Ea, oa, awa, and ua. All of them occur before schwa. And that is interesting.
Patrick is admitting that he is not, in fact, a fortune teller and did not, in fact, know that Mateus was not going to be here, just knew that Mateus was not posting where certain things would have been commented upon.
Yeah.
And so.
All right. I will be back. Jesse, you're in charge.
Bye. What are you looking at?
Looking at your booch.
Boy, where is Mateus? So yeah, Magpie, that was one that I was definitely thinking as David was reading that list aloud. And to voice that for everyone to hear is that a vowel followed by a schwa may become a long vowel, like that's an option, whereas just like the schwa is kind of weak, but like the vowel space was longer and therefore it just sort of held it and just held the initial vowel production, which isn't funny because the vowel schwa combos that we inherited from the hauhof sound changes actually came from long vowel sequences in some cases. In other cases they came from other things, but like a e o and u all became a vowel followed by a schwa. And then what we would be saying is we're going to reverse that and now anything followed by a schwa becomes long, which totally happens in languages. That's not problematic. I do want to point out that's not problematic. I just think it's funny. And I think it's a good plan to consider. What do you think, David?
Definitely a good plan to consider. I do have an alternative.
Mm-hmm.
If we have general vowel raising, we could have the notion that single vowels are weak and are prone to raising, and these are not. So a single A will raise to E, but ea is going to keep its quality and drop the and so then
Okay,
we wouldn't have
so
long vowels.
currently our vowel inventory is oo, o, or. I'm just putting this as a back vowel. Eh. Okay. And so what David is suggesting, front vowels are easy because there's only two of them and there's raising. Back vowels, if we consider this, some of them are a little tricky because like the oo is already at the top. So would it stay there or would it do something?
It could, and then we just have a lot more oo. It could move forward and become u, and kind of trigger that old chain.
Okay. So we could have A, K, or well, yeah, I'll just go ahead and say K because that's K's name too, and then that's fun. K would go to Ki, but Gea would go to K. The epsilon E would go to A. Like the sound.
Yeah, I guess so, huh?
So and then ea.
And then ea would be epsilon, yeah.
Okay. U could go to E, and then ua stays at U. O could go to U, O to O. And then ah. David,
Yeah.
what would we do with ah when it's raised? Because it is technically a back vowel. It feels weird to say it raises and gets rounded.
Isn't that what happened in English?
Let's say no.
All right. Then let's just say that low vowels are unaffected.
And I'm trying to think of an example.
Well, I thought English had, two different ahs. It had a front one and a back one. The front one raised and the back one raised differently.
Because we got I and ow from the high vowels E and U.
Yep. Hold on a second. Looking up the great vowel shift.
Trying to do this from memory.
Front ah raised, back ah did not. It was the only thing that didn't move.
That's what my memory told me. Okay, so I was right. Yay! Okay. Now, decide. Okay. So I'm not saying it's not possible for Oz to become or, because that would be where it goes. Because at this point
Yeah.
in our vowel chart we have O is the next step up, separate from O. So O, and then U. A could definitely go to O.
Tethys is giving examples. I don't know why they're not on the Wikipedia page. This is what I remembered. The OA words.
That was a diphthong, though.
Oh, it was?
I thought.
Not according to Tethys. Looks like a long ah.
So the long went to O, but the short did nothing. Which, I mean, only the long vowels went to the vowel shift anyway.
I don't know why it's completely being ignored on this Wikipedia page.
I also don't know why Wiktionary made it so it's hard to find the search button now. There we go.
But I knew that's what I remembered. From Old English, got.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it fronted in the Old English stage. So singular was got and plural was gat. Which means that we could have goat gate, right?
I guess. I don't know. So
I also remember that, the Yiddish sound change, where you have an A in German, you have an O in Yiddish.
actually, okay, David.
Mm-hmm.
But now, if we did raise Oz,
Mm-hmm.
which they can, leave the to just we would then have an underutilized if nothing happened to the schwa during the stage, because there's really nowhere for it to raise on its little spectrum there.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be potentially the only vowel that lowers and becomes the new a lonely schwa becoming an
It could do that, or we could do like a funky quasi-vowel harmony thing where it goes to different vowel qualities depending on what it follows. But I
after like what consonant it follows, where it's like a consonant at the front of the mouth that becomes kind of an a, and in the back of the mouth it becomes an
I was thinking more of the vowel that preceded the consonant. However, I do see two paths emerging. And I think that there are two strong paths that need to be considered. On the one hand, we have, basically we say we are committed to sticking with monophthongs. We're not going to have length as a distinctive feature in this language. And so then what we are going to be looking at is a series of essentially like a pool chain, and having our own great vowel shift. And going in and individually deciding exactly how this vowel shift is going to affect all of the singletons, all the vowel sequences, and then our trailing schwas. So that's one option. Option two is we decide we do like vowel length, and so we're going to lean into that, probably maybe have fewer vowel qualities. I'm not quite 100% sure on that. But we look to our vowel sequences and say these are going to become long vowels, or maybe diphthongs for some of them in some way. Mm-hmm. And then for our trailing schwas, we delete them, causing the previous vowel to lengthen.
If there's no previous vowel? Like in a protoform that's K schwa?
Do they still survive to this stage?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because nothing has happened to them.
Oh, goodness. Well,
and like
then
the schwa is a protoform, and so...
Then that's an open question for both strategies, because even the suggestion I made for the previous one, if there's
that's-
nothing that occurs before the
And
schwa.
that's why I had said it would
Right.
depend on the consonant, because that's where my brain immediately went, was because
Yeah.
we have a lot of monosyllabic roots, and
Yeah.
a schwa on its own is not only a possibility, but like it has to exist somewhere. Otherwise, we completely overlook that in making Hauchof and
Yeah.
using the full vowel inventory.
Yeah. All right. So I would just like to ask you, as kind of director of this language, what feels more exciting or more authentic to you for our foxes? Leaning into, we're not going to have vowel length, and we're going to approach this in a great vowel shift with a great vowel shift type of mindset, or we like the vowel length. It's different from Hauchof, and so we're going to instead focus on that.
I guess if it makes sense to say, I want I guess a bit of both, because what I'm going to suggest will still include vowel shift. But I think we should lean into length.
All right. I like that idea.
And leaning into length, I would like to reduce the number of diphthongs that are possible, even of the cardinal vowels. So not even thinking like, how do we get rid of the schwa combos, which will, I think, potentially just become long vowels. I think is a very good way to just get rid of like the ea and oa, make them long vowels. But we still have like OU, EU, AU, AI, and OI.
Oh yeah, they're there.
As diphthongs, and I don't know that I want all of them to survive.
And also, as a reminder, not just that, we have...
oh yeah, all these wah.
Yeah.
And so the other thing that I was mentioning, David, why I was saying my vision for this, is I think I'm going to also find ways to kill the epsilon and the open O.
Yeah.
And have those shift, which then creates some movement potentially. So it's like, it's not going to be a great vowel shift in the sense that everything's shifting up, but like we're going to start seeing things mashing together. So either, for instance, lowering the epsilon to an ash, so it's like further in quality to make a bigger distinction, because in my head it just feels like that mid space for our Fox speakers is totally overwhelmed right now. At this stage in the language, we still don't have just an E sound on its own. And by E, I mean an I in IPA. This is always so confusing as we do this. We don't yet just have that sound at the top. And so all of our vowels right now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 vowels. 5 of those vowels are in the mid range.
Yeah.
They're mid vowels. That's insane. And I feel like our foxes are like, this is insane. So they're either going to push the epsilon to a lower level to make it an ash, to make it more distinct. The O distinction, what we do there is going to be interesting because we already have the A, we already have an U. So it's like the front vowels can push in any direction and we got spaces available. The back cannot. And that's where I want to start playing around with maybe some movement, maybe some merger, maybe the introduction of the E vowel, because that feels right for this language in terms of what we're looking at.
Maybe too, maybe both of them.
Maybe, yes. And so, and in that process, I would want to eliminate some of these diphthongs. Like I really don't like O being a diphthong for this language. And So that's where my brain is going.
Well, let's tackle it. I do want to raise, somebody mentioned that length as a result of contact with sarcasm could be fun, but that was Magpie. But also, this is very reminiscent of sarcasm. Part of what gave us our harmony in sarcasm is we created this stage of having close mid and open mid vowels. with the full intention of destroying the distinction. And so that was what gave us our really weird, plus the other changes. It's what gave us our really, really weird thing that happened in Sarkisier, where it's like, if it's Proto-K, then this next vowel is E. If it's Proto-Q, the next vowel is A.
Right.
And it's like, how the hell did that happen?
Yeah.
And it was because it was Proto-E, and there was this split. And it so like it went from all the way to the bottom to all the way to the top. Okay, so I'm totally down for this.
Languages nailed it, and I don't know why it is this way, but I'm so happy you worded it, because this is exactly what like my brain was feeling. That O is very dogly, but not very foxly, and I feel the same about the AU. Ow, I, and oi, I'm more okay with, just because it's like they are so standard across like inventories anyway, that it's like you can run across them. And they feel like, especially the I and the oi, they're moving into that space that's available anyway, because we've got that E space open up there. So it's like I feel like those two especially like match. We'll see what happens with that, but yeah, it's like that just absolutely. Magpie, you're right. I feels foxly. Oh, I'm so happy you all get me.
All right, I'm gonna write some things in here.
God, we have like a baby moth in here. Did you see that? It just flew this way. It may be sitting on my computer or somewhere back here. But it's like a little baby tiny moth is what it looked like with its little flappy wings.
No idea.
If I see it fly again, I'll point it out. It flew right around here.
Oh, it's behind your computer.
So you see it?
Yeah.
Oh, you can get a picture? I won't move anything, so that way maybe. Okay, well, it just looks like a very tiny. The way it flaps its wings looks very moth-like, rather than other insect-like.
I'm really having a hard time focusing.
Oh, Mesosobania says they get in the pantry and they're very bad, so maybe we should take care of this after you get a picture.
Yeah.
Oh, I see it. Of course it sees me too. Okay, well, for now, it is free.
All right.
I feel good about you for this language. Carnwin, I think I got that right. I momentarily couldn't tell if that was an RN or an M. Are your tip-tappy typings? Oh, there they are. I found them. Okay.
So yeah, these are all...
Yeah, there's one hell of an inventory. We're gonna...
It is. Okay.
Apparently I say moth weird.
Let's start making some changes and see where that gets us. Let's start with that. That leaves us with these as questions. That is, if we get this, or if these are handled in some other way before that stage.
Yeah.
I do have a recommendation. This is going to feel very deja vu when it comes to sarcasm. So if we did this, then we could essentially keep that.
Mm,
Hmm?
I don't know.
What?
I'll think about how ew would come out. Ow. Ow. Ah. Ow. Towel. No, wait, the ow would only come after. We would only get these after K's, ever. The epsilon never shows up anywhere else except after uvulars, right? So
Yeah.
K's and X's would be the only place. In which case, does it make sense that they would lean away? But we just had the change where like it affected the vowels and pulled them down.
Mm-hmm.
If we didn't do something else with it, it would just go right back to A.
Yeah. Dark Horse recommended something extremely, what do you call it? Like it's definitely overkill, but the idea is sound. That is, like, if you only have this vowel after this consonant, then there could be certain reasons to delete that consonant, and now you have the distinction. You know. Anyway, just something to store away in the back of our heads.
What do you think about like some of these I know we would need to order where we want them, so we don't want to just go in and type things. Like I am leaning towards making all the schwa diphthongs just lengthen vowel situations, but that means we first have to decide what to do with the o and whether the, you know, again, that epsilon ash situation. Thus we enter a time of staring at a list of sounds and trying to decide what to do with them.
There's two suggestions I have. One, long O stays long O. Long O becomes short O. That's one suggestion. And the same would happen with the front vowels. Another suggestion is that one of those becomes long O, the other one becomes uo, and the distinction is effectively lost between O and O because it's kind of a vowel sequence. In other words, that's the finished sound change. So, you know, for example, it could be the case that O is seen as pure, but O is not, and so it becomes O. Don't know.
Okay.
So the language is suggesting the opposite. Maybe something like a long O tense goes to like oo short, and then O is the only one that remains. I don't know.
Okay, so some of these, especially in the diphthongs,
Mm-hmm.
like can you, David, pronounce the diphthong difference between OI and open OI?
Oi, oi. A little bit more pronounced, perhaps, but. it could certainly be the case that those merge. That was why I suggested that O to uo one, because it's much easier to imagine, like, uo and uol merging than o all.
And I could not follow in words. I need to see it. I couldn't follow where those were coming from. I was literally trying to take notes, and I didn't.
That's all right.
Catch how we were getting those.
It's easier for diphthongs to merge. That's all we need to know.
Okay. But, like, can you just start typing this out?
Right, but we need to decide which one we're going to stick with. But, like, we could just say that. For example, and if that happened, the thing is, if this happens, it kind of makes sense for these to merge, or at least this one, O and A merging. That's kind of the reason I like the tiered sound change, because personally I like pushing to a.
Okay.
And so I like this as a stage one, and then this occurs after. So in other words, this happens first.
Okay.
Maybe at the same time that happens, then we see other diphthong, mergers, like that one too.
Ooh.
But I need you to say okay before we can actually do this, because right now we're in a confusing spot where we have ordered changes.
Which is why I want to make a table, and I had turned my page to do it. But if we could, or I just
Pretty
need.
big table. But
What's that?
Pretty big table.
Well, that's why I was just gonna write it on my note page, but I realized that doesn't help anyone at home.
No, so I'm gonna do it.
But by stages, not by, all these vowels across the top, all these vowels down the column. Literally by stage, like stage one, here are the combos being affected, what's being fed into stage two.
Why is it doing that? Why is it doing this? Why is it doing this?
I can't see what it's doing because the cell is not updating for me.
What the hell? Oh, it's because the caps lock is on. It's because the caps lock is on. That's why.
Isn't that exciting? But yeah, there are a lot of different directions we could go, and that way anything we type at top can be note space, where it's like this is where we want it to go if we end up needing to distinguish.
Oh, I'm gonna have to delete those.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. And then we had owl going to O. Okay. Ooh, we have a lot of ideas down here. Oh. So we had already talked about getting rid of potentially all the diphthongs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this isn't new.
I don't remember what we talk about sometimes. Oh, bye, Minnie. But Nemo is here now. Like in my head, you were here the whole time, Nemo, because I had recently caught up with some chit chat on Discord, and some of it was featuring you, and so in my head it's like, oh, Nemo's been here all day.
I understand that you might not like to do it this way, but I need it this way. But we'll also do this though.
What was in terms of moving forward, I feel like there's already another suggestion, like whenever you finish doing this, there's another suggestion that you had for what we could said. Wow. My brain is doing things today.
Alright. This has to be stage 1.
So the to a in all situations, and then ao to o.
Also, I shouldn't have done that. I should,
Making the font colors
yeah.
probably better. And so now the oi and oi could merge.
Yeah, that would be next.
Right.
But if you were happy with this ed-a thing, that needs to be first.
Okay. Yeah, like I'm good with that.
This happens here because they're both kind of in the same column. We don't actually, if we had an I, that I think that would go to A, but we don't have that yet.
Oh, then would not the O be on the chopping blocks? That's not only in the same column, it's side by side.
Yeah. So I think that one has to, at this stage, become oo.
Okay. And that's important because that is just short oo, not the long oo that we're going to get later from other diphthongs.
Ooh, actually, that's.
Oh, we also have o. O.
Yeah, that's actually a problem. That's actually a problem. Because then there's no reason for these two to merge. But oh boy, oh dear. I guess then what you'd say is this would happen.
Yeah, like they would merge in the same way.
Mm-hmm. Just come up one level.
Mm-hmm. Making sure all of our other diphthongs have movement.
Mm-hmm.
Away from that front back area.
Okay, so now let's go to stage 3. And we're going to... All right. The reason that we didn't do that as languages is because there was more space in front than there was in back. We had e go to a because it didn't exist yet.
Mm-hmm.
Having all go to ah is a bit tougher, let's just say.
So another thing I want to look for is an opportunity to create, to see if it makes sense to create the monophthong E written with the small I.
Mm-hmm.
Because that is something that this language doesn't have, and
Yeah.
I think it would be very interesting for it to appear, but like, very minimally, whereas in other languages it would appear much more.
Not yet, though. I think I know what has to happen
Okay.
now. We need to get rid of this. This is now the only...
Oh my god, it was in your hands and it flew out. But like,
Sorry.
you almost...
This is now the only low-mid vowel. And it occurs in diphthongs. And so it makes sense for these things to merge with these things now.
Mm-hmm. Just seeing that copying and pasted at first, I was like, wow, that's quite the merger that it's going for, because it pasted over the ash.
And now we only have singleton aw.
Okay.
But it makes sense that the diphthongs happen first.
Mm-hmm. Does it make sense to then flatten out some of the monophthong offerings to start moving things, or to do the diphthong reductions first, then look at what monophthongs we're left with and start moving things around?
A very good question. I think monophthong changes should happen first. I think.
One of the, I guess we could also do it in like several different stages. One thing that makes sense in my head is potentially talking about first, and I know like this goes against what you just said, but like first doing something with the diphthongs that end in schwa, and by deleting all the instances where schwa occurs on its own or in a diphthong, then the schwa by itself becomes less stable, potentially just because it's like being reduced in all of these combos. And so it's like the o and the schwa at this point would be sort of like less stable, because they would only occur in some situations and they're losing their counterparts in all the diphthongs.
It does make a lot of sense. I just don't have a good idea what to do with schwa.
Right. If we went the route, although, when it occurs on its own in a root, that's problematic. But we can worry about that at the next stage. But if we did go with the route where schwa started being pulled based on where the previous vowel was, or based on where the previous consonant is in the mouth, if the schwa starts getting pulled as a monophthong, that would also be a reason for then the schwa to disappear, because at that point it's just being eaten up by what's before it. If it happens to be a consonant, here's what happens. If it happens to be a vowel, it just becomes a lengthened version of the vowel. So it's like if that schwa sort of collapses, it could make sense that it has movement and collapses pretty quickly one after the other.
One second. What are all the ways that we can have a word final schwa?
Word final?
Yeah.
Well, one, it could be any CV protoform.
The other
So-
way, the epenthetic one.
The epenthetic is after the qua.
And we can't delete those because then we'd be
Yeah,
ending
qua.
them with qua.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
So then we can't do my idea of just deleting word final schwa to lengthen the previous vowel. We
Right.
have to go with your idea. Basically, it's either your idea or keep schwa. So I think that you're right. That is going to be a place to start, the shifting of schwa.
and for me, the qua situation, the wa reads a lot like an oo in terms of production, like where the tongue is, and so it would make sense for it to go to a back vowel. Like so having like qua become qua.
Qua, qua.
Or yeah, pulling to quo or something like that. So like versus a situation where we have like fa, pa, I think we had a ba. Those are produced more forward, so like potentially fe or something.
Well, if we start with these word final ones, though, they only ever occur after W.
Right. Sorry, I was looking big picture.
I know, but
Because when we say word final, we must be specific and say epenthetic.
yeah. So you're right. If it only occurs after W and that's where the change happens, I think really the only question is if it goes to A or O, or both, depending on the vowel that comes before it. And if that's the case, I think the rest of the schwas are going to follow suit, regardless of the consonant that comes before it.
And so it's all going to go to O?
Or A.
Right, but it would all go to one thing because unless it is an affix situation or this epenthetic situation, we're going to get a lot of schwas with no preceding vowel.
Right, and in those
Okay.
situations, though, presumably, yeah. Huh. There could be a rule saying that it defaults to ah, but if there's a preceding rounding vowel, it passes its rounding feature, and so it becomes an O. And so basically, yeah, all the schwas would become ah, except when they're epenthetic, and there happens to be a rounded vowel before it. Get even.
Well, I mean, if this happens late enough that, compounds have already been formed and things like that, it could get a preceding vowel at that point. But it's just, it's
Sure,
just like,
yeah.
we just need to
Uh-huh.
have that situation open. And Carnwyn, to your suggestion, in some languages, yes, it could. In this language, no, it cannot.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, like, we would have a word that would just be like two P's side by side. So it lengthened the P, but there's no vowel anymore because the schwa was deleted. And that wouldn't super work in a language like this.
But like for some theoretical language,
It totally could.
you could totally imagine like napa becoming nap,
Mm-hmm.
and with this like kind of like a lengthened consonant taking up the space that the former one, the former schwa had, and you'd hear it as it shows up in between words. I was going to say that happened in Estonian, but it didn't happen in Estonian. They just lost all the final vowels and were totally fine if that left a geminate at the end of a word.
Right.
So, what do you think about this slight variable split where we have O sometimes, most of the time?
Yeah, I think it'll be hard for me at times to figure out how to write all this into Lexergy, but that makes sense, and so let's move forward with that. And
I know how to do it.
okay.
All right. But let's go here. It's going to be /O. And I think this is where we're going to deal with the rest of schwa. All right.
Okay. And so that's going to be the only thing at stage 4, or like at stage 4, we're also going to introduce the other schwa changes. Is that what you intended to say?
I think that they should be ordered.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they should. Well, I guess I think for Lexergy they should be ordered maybe, but yeah, I see them essentially happening at the same time. Would it help you to write them at the same time?
No, I'm asking for this. I'm not doing Lexergy yet.
Let's separate it out just so that we don't, just in case there could be confusion, there won't be.
I am right now just taking notes for
Yeah.
what will need to happen.
We got a Miles here.
We got Miles here.
We got Miles here.
What? And oh, by the way, I think you meant we got Giles here. Obviously. So schwa is gonna go to O when there's rounded in front of it, or when it occurs after a W. Is that correct?
No, because it's always going to occur after a W at the end of a word.
But when you think compounds, so we're pushing compounds together. So
No, I
that's
understand, but I want to give you two options for you to consider. Number one, and again, we're just talking about epenthetic right now, since they always are going to occur after W. Either the epenthetic shows up as ah most of the time, shows up as o when the preceding vowel is rounded, or this schwa always shows up as rounded after something rounded, which means the epenthetics would always be o, and that sometimes the schwa itself would become o. So because we have proto-W, for example, and so a proto, like I don't know, proto-K schwa T would come out as chat, and proto-W schwa T would come out as wot.
right.
What do you like? Because I didn't intend for this latter one.
You had only intended.
Vowels
Okay.
were the only things that were passing roundedness, not consonants.
Not consonants? Okay.
I never intended that. But what do
Okay.
you like?
No, let's do vowels. Now, that in saying that,
We still got open all.
yeah, we gotta do something with that.
What if we did the same thing?
What do you mean? Okay, so now the
No, never mind. It wouldn't make sense.
vowel schwa goes to this was like then.
Hang on. We may need to revisit after consonants. Because we could have the same sound change affecting open aw at the same time if it was consonants. In other words, the aw could become o after something that's labialized, but ah otherwise. It would essentially be a schwa open o merger.
So okay, so that happens before that happens. Okay, so the or, which only exists if it's following an emphatic consonant,
Yeah.
which means it also follows things like B
Mm-hmm.
and things like that, 'cause
Yeah.
that's where it exists. Okay, and that's where the ash will exist as well. Okay, so this is the realm in which the ash will exist, and it will follow more than just K's. Because the pharyngalized B and D and T will take the vowel lowering as well.
Yeah.
And so, okay. I had forgotten about that in our examples. We were really focusing on this KQ, and so like I had completely forgotten about these others. Okay. Or following suit of the schwa after a labialized consonant becomes O.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere else becomes ah.
We may need to expand it to labials, not just labialized. I'm not sure.
I feel like, yeah, because otherwise we're going to get an overwhelming abundance.
Abundance.
Exactly. Okay.
So this language is just pointing out something that is wild that we may actually want to consider. If true, it sounds absolutely nonsense to me. Sissa language just says in Icelandic, all goes to ö. Was there no other fronting that happened? Like what happened to regular O? Like I was thinking of getting ö some other way, but
I was thinking of like only getting some of those front from diphthongs.
mm-hmm. How dare you, Jake? So
Would the schwa, if we had bilabials or labials affecting the or, would the schwa be affected by those, or would they be doing the same mergers but in slightly different environments?
say it one more time.
Because you had said that the schwa would only be sensitive to the roundness of the vowel.
Oh no, this was changing that. I was saying if they were merging, it was going to have to be affected by the consonant.
Okay, I took my notes wrong. Okay. I feel my notes just need to stay there and not do anything till we have a chart, and then I'll try to figure it all out.
Oh, Conlinger's Guide to the Icelandic Language.
Got rid of that. Okay, so we had already gotten rid of owl. I'm good with keeping I. If we end up getting rid of it, we end up getting rid of it. I'm just good with keeping it. I was thinking E would go to E, potentially. AU
Uh-huh.
to E.
The high brown?
Yeah.
What about oi?
I was just looking at one at a time and trying to discuss.
Sure.
I don't know what's going to happen with oi. I'm also not sure what will happen with ow. Ow.
I guess if these are our last two vowels, it does make sense. These two are our last two diphthongs. It does make sense that they go to the same height, not one going to and one going to ü. Should probably go to the same place. Okay.
Well, with the ash in between. That's our other diphthong.
Oh yeah. If we're gonna keep I think we keep ow.
So we would have an ow. It's just technically an ow instead of an o.
Well, my pronunciation there, I was trying to be precise. We would have ow and I. So they would be like, in Finnish, the diphthongs a umlaut I, and then a no umlaut I, and then a umlaut, I guess Finnish doesn't have a umlaut U, does it? They only have a.
With the Y.
Yeah, this would be like that, but without the Y. I think I have a poll, but I want to run it by you first.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what the poll would be. One option, we actually go with this aw to ö sound change, and then au and oi merge in ü.
Okay.
Option two is we go with what we have here, and then we don't have ö.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Yeah. Ooh, my oh my.
And we're not done yet. We still don't have a regular, like, E vowel, and I know that we wanted it. We're not done yet. This would just be the next step. So, put a little...
And I mean, we may not get it. I don't know.
We might.
I just, for whatever reason, I felt
No, yeah.
like the foxes would have that E. And so, like, I don't know if at some point we will then start just moving vowels around or...
No, I know how we can get it.
Okay.
I know how we can get it. Yeah, I can get it. Oh boy, that could be a bunch of sound changes. But all right, that'll be for a future episode. Okay.
For a future episode of Staring at the Screen.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
we're
going to need to cancel next week. We're going to be visiting a university for the latter half of the week. And right when we would be otherwise streaming, we are giving a presentation. And
Yeah.
so rather than a live stream, we invite you all to fly to Buffalo, New York. And see us there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we'll have to cancel that. We come here every week for staring at the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And so, anyway, we'll try to make it up to you somehow, some way,
Mm-hmm.
even if it just means sending lots of love out to you into the universe.
Thank you for the reminder, Jake. This Sunday is going to be the revelation of, is it just one half of the relay? Or one ring?
Yes.
And which ring?
It's going to be my ring.
Ring. Okay, Jesse's ring for the Let's Have a Relay, the Let's Have a Booba relay, is going to be this Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific.
Yes.
A very us-friendly time. We're super happy about it, so thank you everybody else. This is going to be Jesse's ring. Jake's ring is going to be revealed. Do we have a date for that yet?
I actually don't know. That's a good question, Jake. And by good question to Jake is what I meant.
No.
Not
so,
okay, we don't. Gotcha.
So, pending.
Pending reveal.
So, and I, of course, I was in Jake's ring.
Yes, yes. And so I think, David, I think you're going to be there. Jake, let me know if I'm wrong here. I think we're just going to have you there for funsies.
I mean, I'll be...
Because your text is done. It's not like
you're
going to find something out that will affect your translation. So
I will be there, but, I don't want to be a nuisance since I'm not a part of the ring. So
anytime I slap your leg, that means shh.
You can get Victor. We haven't had Victor on in a while. Some people don't even know who Victor is. Hold on. Oh, I'm sorry, Victor. Vincent.
Vincent is his
Vincent.
name. I was trying not to correct you.
Thank you. No, you should have. Vincent Van Gogh, or one of our little mascots here. There he is.
Scream sounds like he's lost some of the loudness.
Yeah, he's lost some volume, hasn't he?
That's probably a good thing.
There is a battery, so.
But yeah, so Vincent can scream at David anytime he needs to take a break there. But yeah, that will be Sunday at 1. And so there we go. See, that's how you're getting the extra love. You're getting us in some relay reveals.
Mm-hmm.
We may have to hold off on Foxes for a week, but you are getting some good stuff in between.
Yeah.
And you will get a second relay reveal when that ring is ready and when we're back in town, because I think they want you there for that.
Yeah, and it's also going to give me some more time to, because, when our 5th episode airs, that's when we're going to do the How-Off, and I think I need to revisit that orthography.
Yeah, you need time, because right now you need to work on links that you want to be ready for Sundays. Yeah. Sunday is also our CBS interview, so.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So much.
CBS Sunday morning. All right, then.
Well, thank you all for being here.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate all of you and all of your comments, and we appreciate you as a community as well, so thank you.
Yeah. Also, hopefully next time we should have time to go to Home Depot, yeah?
Yes. In between now and 2 Thursdays from now, we should have time to actually try to get our lighting set up. So fingers crossed, next time you see us, we should have better lighting.
All right. Stay Grimer, everybody. Wonderful to see you. We love you so much. And we'll see you in a bit. Sunday and then in a bit.
Yes.
All right.